This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. More fallout today from a huge college admissions scam. The Department of Justice says it's the biggest one it has ever prosecuted, with 33 parents accused of paying $25 million in bribes. One of those parents, actress Lori Loughlin, turned herself into the FBI this morning. Our Heather Sells is in the newsroom with more. Heather.
Yes, Mark, this scandal involved a lot of wealthy parents who paid bribes to get their kids into 8 elite universities. And you might remember actress Lori Loughlin. She played Aunt Becky on the sitcom Full House. Prosecutors say that she and her husband paid $500,000 to have their 2 daughters labeled as recruits for the University of Southern California's crew team. In fact, neither of the 2 is a rower. One daughter, Olivia J. Giannoli, started at USC last fall, and she is a big social media influencer.
To know that there's people who are just scamming their way in is really upsetting, especially when it's someone that I've looked up to on YouTube for so many years as like a role model.
To be honest, it's awful. It's sort of a disrespect to my hard work that I put in, because, I mean, just because you're rich doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, right?
Authorities have also charged another well-known actress, Felicity Huffman, of ABC's Desperate Housewives. They say she paid a bribe to have an SAT proctor fix her daughter's test score. Other parents are also charged with paying similar bribes to the scam's alleged mastermind, William Singer.
Numerous parents paid Singer between $15,000 and $75,000 to have someone either take the exam for their child or to correct their child's answers afterward.
Mark, other parents charged include movers and shakers in the corporate world, and authorities say their investigation is not over. And this is all raising a lot of questions about the college admissions process and just how fair and transparent it is or is not.
All right, Heather, thank you for that report. And for more on this, we're joined now by Nathan Harden, who's the education editor for Real Clear Education. Nathan, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
In the wake of this scandal, many are saying college admissions have always been for sale to some degree, but this scandal seems different. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, it really sort of takes the mask off the system, doesn't it? I mean, to see that so many people were involved in the scandal is what's really striking. It would be one thing if this were, a couple of administrators and 1 or 2 schools, but we see dozens of people across many of the elite universities in our country involved in this. So it really makes you wonder if we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
There are so many stakeholders in the education world, from college administrators and professors to students and their parents. What are you hearing, Nathan, from some of these different groups?
I think people feel like, the optics aren't good. In other words, these are already kids who are privileged. They're coming from very wealthy families. They've had all the right test preparation, all the best private schools, and yet still they're getting this extra unfair and illegal advantage on top of all that. So I think there's a sense that maybe already we felt like, it's not necessarily a merit-based system to begin with, but to see that this over and above that, it's really disheartening for people who had trust in the system. And I mean, think about the person who got denied and one of these other kids got put in because their parent paid $1 million. It's just disheartening.
What do you think is going to happen next as the investigation unfolds? Do you think it might lead to increased scrutiny when it comes to college admissions and maybe even possible reform?
Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs if they haven't already. But I do think this raises the question of what are the standards that these schools are using to begin with. There are so many other factors, extracurriculars, and is it really that important that you're on the rowing team to begin with? Should that be, an advantage for getting into college? And if you go to Australia, for instance, they have a much more transparent merit-based system. It's purely based on your academic record. And so all of these wild card factors about, your grandpa gave $2 million to name a building after you, or, you those are eliminated in that system. So I think there could be a call for more transparency and a more straightforward system of standards for entrance into these schools.
At the root of this scam is parents who desperately wanted their kids to get into elite schools. You went to Yale as a student, so you understand some of this world. Do you think that getting into a top school should be a priority, and does it really make a difference?
Look, parents are putting too much emphasis on the brand name of these schools, and it's really a sad story to think, these people could be facing jail time over, this obsession. And we all understand we want the best for our kids, but building good character is so much more important than, the name of the school that you get into. And, what is the message that these parents were sending their kids, that it's okay to cheat, to get ahead? I think that it's a time for all of us to really, re-examine our priorities, if you would.
Okay, Nathan Harden with Real Clear Education. Thank you for your time today, sir.
Yeah, good to be here.
The U.S. Department of Education has announced it will no longer enforce a restriction barring religious organizations from serving as contract providers of services solely because of their religious affiliation. U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos made the announcement Monday. The department said in a press release that the restrictions that require an equitable services provider to be independent of any religious organization are unconstitutional because they categorically exclude religious organizations based solely on their religious identity. This comes from a 2017 ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court involving a church-run preschool in Missouri that stated that the government cannot exclude churches and other faith-based organizations from a secular government program simply because of their religious identity. Mounting pressure on the Federal Aviation Administration and Boeing to ground its 737 MAX 8 airliners after the deadly crash in Ethiopia. Several countries are grounding the jets or closing their airspace to the planes. But so far, the U.S. has not made that decision. Here's Charlene Aaron.
The FAA facing growing criticism for not grounding Boeing's 737 MAX 8 jets after the Ethiopian Airlines crash. The FAA saying there's no basis to order grounding. U.S. carriers Southwest and American are still using the jet, but the list of countries banning it continues to grow. Hong Kong recently joined France, the UK, China, Australia, Germany, and several other countries, no longer allowing the jet to fly in their airspace. In the U.S., lawmakers calling for the FAA to act.
The 737 MAX 8 should be immediately grounded until the FAA can assure us that they are safe.
Well, I think out of an abundance of caution and frankly common sense, it makes sense to ground an aircraft that's been involved in two very tragic accidents in only 6 months.
Flight 302 crashed Sunday morning shortly after takeoff from the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa, killing all 157 passengers and crew on board. The crash follows a similar one of a Lion Air jet of the same model in Indonesian seas last year, killing 189. Boeing is sending a technical team to the crash site to help Ethiopian and U.S. investigators determine the cause of the crash. The plane's black box has been recovered, but it's damaged, and the Ethiopians will have to send it to another country to access the information. It could take days.
If there's a problem with the airplane, the world needs to know now.
At least 2 U.S. pilots have complained about the planes in the past, saying that an automated system seemed to cause their Boeing 737 MAX planes to tilt down suddenly. They recovered after disconnecting the autopilot. President Trump has spoken with Boeing's CEO, who said he is absolutely confident in the safety of the airplanes. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido addressed a peaceful crowd in Caracas Tuesday afternoon, saying that as an engineer, he could fix the country's electrical problem. Guaido, who's trying to oust President Nicolas Maduro and hold elections, blames corruption and incompetence for nearly a week of nationwide blackouts. The outages have deprived citizens of not just electricity, but also water and communications. Venezuela's chief prosecutor announced Tuesday that Guaido is being investigated for allegedly sabotaging the national power grid. The U.S. is dismissing accusations that it triggered the power crisis with a cyber attack. The most senior Catholic to be convicted of child sex abuse was sentenced in an Australian court today. Cardinal George Pell was sentenced to 6 years in prison for molesting, that is, 2 choir boys in a Melbourne cathedral more than 20 years ago. Pope Francis's former finance minister had been convicted by a unanimous jury verdict in December. A court order had suppressed media reporting the news until last month.
Today is a victory for not just Australians but globally, because today we sent a message that our children are important and their lives matter, and in the future we create good people by treating them well. And these people who call themselves the good and the just have deceived not just us as children but our entire society. No more.
The 77-year-old denies the allegations and will appeal his convictions in a court of appeal on June 5th. Coming up, a big win for pro-lifers in Ohio. What a new ruling could mean for the abortion industry in that state.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
A federal appeals court upheld an Ohio pro-life law on Tuesday declining public funding for Planned Parenthood. The ruling overturned House Bill 294, which was signed into law in 2016, and blocked the state from stripping about $1.5 million of annual support from the clinics. Tuesday's ruling refused Planned Parenthood any financial help that the organization receives through the state's health programs. The legislation also rejects funds from entities that either endorse or carry out abortions. And joining us now with more on the case from Alliance Defending Freedom is Kevin Thoreau. Kevin, what are the chances the ruling gets appealed and heads to the Supreme Court?
Oh, well, there's certainly a good chance that it will be appealed. Whether or not the Supreme Court takes it or not is a different issue. They don't take many of these cases, and this is a situation where the state has the right to control its own funds and not allow abortion providers, especially ones like Planned Parenthood, who are much criticized because of their fraudulent behavior over the years.
If it does make it to the Supreme Court, what do you think would happen?
Well, it's difficult to predict, but I think there is some Supreme Court precedent says that the government doesn't have to fund abortion. There's a Supreme Court case right on point when the federal government didn't want to fund abortion. So certainly states like Ohio who don't want to allow abortion abortionists to participate and them use tax money to pay for abortions, they have a constitutional right to do so.
It's a pretty big win for pro-lifers. Should we expect to see more laws like this one in other states?
Absolutely. There are many states across the country that are doing their best to not allow Planned Parenthood to get government funds so that they continue their abortion agenda, and it's become more radical. You see that in New York, you see that in Virginia, and just the past couple weeks, Illinois. Texas is also battling against Planned Parenthood to make sure that they don't have to fund abortions.
Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on across the country. What's the next step in the fight for life?
Well, there are numerous cases. Right now, there are a couple cases pending before the Supreme Court, one out of Indiana that where Indiana prohibits abortion because the baby is disabled or because of the race or the sex of the unborn child. And the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals upheld that. But the Supreme Court could take that and upheld the right of Indiana to do what we do in every other aspect of society, and that is not allow discrimination against people, even though they haven't been born yet.
Are you encouraged by what you're seeing from pro-lifers in response to what you talked about earlier, the extreme pro-abortion measures that have been passed?
We really are. You see the states that feel threatened by the gains that pro-lifers have made, not only in the courts, but also in the courtroom of public opinion, that many young people now are pro-life and because they can't deny the science that this is an unborn baby. It's a fully separate human entity from the point of conception. And we're winning on the science, and the hardline pro-abortionists are threatened by that.
Okay, Kevin Thoreau with Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you for your insights today, sir.
You're certainly welcome. Appreciate you having me on.
Coming up, how 2 college students are hoping to encourage their peers to read the Bible.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
Welcome back. A pair of college students have created a Bible made for millennials and made by millennials. They were involved in the campus ministry InterVarsity Christian Fellowship at the University of Southern California. They saw an opportunity to redesign the Bible for today's visually centric culture. CBN's Wendy Griffith spoke with Brian Chung of Alabaster Company earlier today.
You grew up Buddhist. We've got to find out, first of all, how did you become a Christian?
Yeah, well,
My parents are Buddhist. I went to a Catholic middle school and went into college agnostic. I got reached out to by some nice people who happened to be Christian. They were part of this group called InterVarsity. And so they invited me to one of their Bible studies. And that's where I really discovered God for myself as an adult. And so it wasn't until after my freshman year in college where I decided to follow Jesus.
And what happened when you received your first Bible?
When I received my first Bible, I was a little intimidated. I didn't know where to begin. I really wanted to dive into the Gospels, but that's sort of buried within the Bible. I flipped through the couple of pages and it had some background, it had some information about the translation. And so for me, as someone that was new to faith, as someone that was a designer, I thought, could this be done differently?
So it sounds like you were the perfect person to redesign the Bible for this Instagram generation. Using imagery. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were inspired by this book that said that each generation has a spiritual question that they ask that points them to Jesus. In the past, it's been what is true, what is real, what is good, and the author makes a prediction that we're moving into a generation where we're asking the question, what is beautiful? And we found that just to be true. We're constantly on our phones, consuming media through Instagram, through Facebook. We judge a company by the beauty of their website. We love restaurants that are designed well. And so we thought, what would it look like to turn an already beautiful story, the story of Jesus, into also just a beautiful reading experience. And so we thought about everything from how does the paper feel? How does the cover feel? How does it flip between your hands? How can we integrate negative space for a more breathable experience for the reader?
I love it. Well, what's the mission of the new Bible? Of course, you mentioned some of that, but what do you hope to see happen with it?
One of our biggest goals is to show that beauty is important in our understanding of who God is. As both Brian and I, the co-founders, we were really interested in sort of the intersection of art and faith. In the past, in the church, art has played a very strong and high role with the Renaissance paintings, with stained glass windows, and so we wanted to put art again at the forefront of showing the world how beautiful God is.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I just want to interject that your co-founder's name is also Brian Chung, spelled a little bit differently than your name.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yes. That's a little, you know, God has a sense of humor, right?
I'm with an I, he's Brian with a Y.
Well, Brian, how are people responding, and where can people get this Bible?
Yeah, so people can buy our Bibles on our website, alabasterco.com. We ship within the United States and internationally. We also are on Amazon for folks who are located within the United States. And sorry, what was your first question again?
How are people responding? And is it only just the physical Bible that you have, or do you have something online as well?
Yeah, so people are loving our Bibles. The places that bring us most joy is the emails that come in saying, hey, I have a friend that didn't consider themselves a Christian, and they started reading your Bible, or my marriage wasn't doing well, and we read one of your Psalms book together as a couple, and it's been so helpful for our marriage. And so it's been really, really encouraging hearing those types of stories from our customers.
Do you have a copy of it sitting right next to you?
We have, yes, right over here.
You've got to show it. There it is. Okay, Psalms. Beautiful. Love the cover, and there's lots of beautiful imagery inside as well.
Yes.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. We loved interviewing you and wish you guys all the best. I know it's going to be a big hit out there.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for having us.
Okay, God bless you.
Neat magazine-style Bible. Well, after the break, a look at what's new in Hollywood as we look ahead to tonight's Studio 5 entertainment.
When you give, smiles grow bigger.
When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Thanks for staying with us. March is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and right now more than 5 million Americans live with a disability related to traumatic brain injury. Studio 5 is taking a closer look at the issue through the eyes of an up-and-coming recording artist.
Singer Christabel Braden returns to Studio 5.
Got a lot on my mind, don't know what to say, and I know you know what I'm thinking anyway, so I'm just gonna start with hello.
This time as an author.
Tell me about what made you decide that you needed to sit down and pen a journal for people to get.
So I thought it was just going to be a 7-day PDF off my website. That was my original goal. I was just going to write a 7-day devotional, free PDF on my website. And I started to sit down and write, and I just felt the Holy Spirit just like flowing out all of these scriptures. And as I was breaking down, it goes through the song lyrics of the song and takes through that journey. And as I was breaking down the lyrics and in the Word and in the Scripture, there was so much more.
That sounds fascinating. Love her unique voice as well. We'll get Christabel's full story tonight. We also sit down with 3-time Grammy-nominated singer Brian Courtney Wilson, and we're taking you behind the scenes of the new film 5 Feet Apart. It's all on Studio 5 tonight at 9:30 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel. That's going to do it for this edition of Newswatch. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.